Sick, and in this video I will discuss my research into technology trends for incorporating information and communications technology into the secondary science classroom. The use of mobile devices and internet and communications technology has become commonplace in the educational setting, and this is expected to increase over the coming years. In this video, I will talk about 3 different resources related to integrating ICT into science teaching. First, I will discuss a journal article from ScienceScope that looks at how iPad instrument apps can be used to integrate ICT into secondary science teaching. Second, I will examine a website from the AAAS that has a variety of resources that are extremely useful for science teachers to integrate ICT into their teaching. Third, I will look into one specific example of using ICT in early secondary science from a video that I think will be useful to science teachers. Lastly, I will sum up and conclude the main points of my research with concluding remarks. The first resource that I would like to examine is an article by Nancy Hallbrunner that was published in the summer of 2014 in ScienceScope. ScienceScope is the National Science Teachers Association's peer-reviewed journal for middle-level and junior high school science teachers. This article examines the usefulness of iPad instrument apps for measuring different parameters in the science classroom. She suggests that new instrument apps may replace costly laboratory and scientific instruments. Hallbrunner specifically reviews 10 different instrument apps that she thinks would be particularly useful to science teachers. She selected these 10 apps because they received excellent reviews, they are low cost, and they allow teachers to replace scientific instruments in their own class. Some of the apps that she recommends are a high-definition compass, which could be used for orienteering, a level, which allow your iPad to determine if any surface is level, a thermal camera, which could be used to measure endothermic and exothermic chemical reactions, a decibel meter for measuring sound, a vital signs camera, which can detect changes in breathing and heart rate from a distance, and a stopwatch and timer. These instrument apps allow students to use their iPad in a number of different ways and make some of the equipment commonly used in science classrooms obsolete. I found this to be the case during my practicum work, where my students were using the stopwatch app on their iPad instead of the stopwatches that we had provided them with in the lab, because they were finding them easier to use and more accurate when measuring the speed of the dynamics trolley in a physics experiment. Hallbrunner argues that these kinds of apps may help students design their own scientific investigations, and she provides an example investigation using the Decibel app. The next resource that I will examine is a website from the AAAS, or the American Association for the Advancement of Science, called Science Netlinks. Science Netlinks provides free standard-aligned resources for K-12 science educators, including lesson plans, interactives, videos, podcasts, reviewed internet resources and apps, and hands-on learning activities. Today I'm going to focus on some of the iPad apps that they link to that I think are particularly useful for secondary science teachers. Click on the collections at the top of the web page and then scroll down to the Science Apps link. Science Netlinks reviews a large range of apps that would be very useful in the science classroom. I want to show you one example called iCell that I used with my students when I was on my last practicum teaching experience. Next, click on the iCell app button, and it takes you to the launch page. One of the great things about this program is that you can use it in a range of devices such as iPads, smartphones, or computers. Once it loads, you can choose plant, animal, or bacteria cells to examine. This program allows the user to examine different parts of the cell and gives definitions at the basic, intermediate, or advanced level. There are many more apps to explore on ScienceNet links, so I would recommend that you have a look at the site. The last resource that I will examine is a video published by education.gov.uk. This video looks at creating visual presentations in the science classroom using ICT. This video shows a class of Year 7 science students learning about the particle theory in an engaging way. They are conducting an experiment in different groups to test the viscosity of oil at different temperatures and documenting the process using digital cameras. Once the students have completed their experiment, have taken all of the photographs that they need of the process, they use comic strip making software to design a comic strip describing the experiment they conducted and the results that they found. The kids were very engaged in the process, and this worked especially well for children that had low literacy levels and needed differentiated teaching. I think that this idea of documenting the process of scientific investigations with digital cameras or iPad cameras is very useful in the science classroom. In my last practicum, my Year 10 science classes used their iPads to document their investigation of Newton's laws of motion using images and videos, and this worked extremely well. I also think that comic strip making software could be used in a number of different contexts in the science classroom. So if you have a chance, have a look at this video. In conclusion, information and communications technology is changing at an unprecedented pace, and science teachers must evolve along with it. In this video, I explored Hellbrunner's 2014 ScienceScope article, which gave us some great tips on how to use scientific instruments is evolving in the classroom. Secondly, I examined the AAAS Science Netlink site and specifically looked at iCell. I would recommend taking some time to peruse Science Netlinks because there are a great range of useful resources on the site. Lastly, education.gov.uk provided a great video that has some interesting ideas on exploring science in a fun and interactive way that can be applied to many different science classroom activities. If you would like to check out these resources for yourself, here are the references. I hope you have found this information presented in this video useful on your journey as an evolving science teacher. Thank you for watching.